السيدات والسادة الحضور الكرام، نستكمل الآن فعاليات المؤتمر بجلسة تفاعلية تحت عنوان Analytics Translator The New Must-Have Role in Banking. يقدمها دكتور Sjoerd van Heuvel, Associate Professor Data Driven Business and People Analytics at the University of Applied Sciences, Utrecht in the Netherlands. Dr. Sjoerd, the floor is yours.
So much. Thank you. All right, everybody. Welcome back. I should say you had some sort of a lunch. At least this is lunchtime in my country. I'm from the Netherlands. You have lunch at 4 p.m. or something. You already saw it, right? Data, analytics, algorithms, AI. Today's presentation by me will be on this subject. We're going to talk about the Analytics Translator, and I encourage you all, after this talk, to become this Analytics Translator in a data-driven business. So let's first explore what a data-driven business actually means. And this sounds much better with sound, really. Okay, I will go again. If the technicians can put on the sound, here we go. And here we go again. If the technicians can put on the sound, here we go. And here we go again. If the technicians can put on the sound, here we go. But I asked for it like 5 times. Really? Come on. Quick. Okay, I'm told now that there is no sound at all. So, yeah, that's too bad. Who has seen the movie? Anyone? The Circle. It's a book. The book is always better, right? The book by Dave Eggers. It's about an organization. It's a little bit like Google. The Circle is the organization where you do your banking, where you do your purchasing, where you do your social activities, social media. They know everything. Well, is that desirable or not? Well, I don't know. Let's find out. But I think we have great opportunities. So not think about risks, at least not for this hour. Think about opportunities. Let's see. Okay, now I don't have a presentation. I think we start over. I have let's wait for a minute before it's fixed. And, this is not good. I asked for it so many times. Okay, well, no sound. We continue without sound, without movies, so I will do my best. All right, skip this one. The book, Dave Eggers. Okay, read the book. It's terrific. And it sketches a little bit of a dramatic future. That's not the case. I only see opportunities. So, for today, I will show you quite some examples of what analytics, what data-driven business means in practice. And I hope it will inspire you without sound. I will talk about problems that you may have in becoming this data-driven organization. Problems that you will have in becoming an analytics translator, in understanding the true potential of data and analytics. And I will provide some solutions, of course. Basically, they're twofold. One is you should create a breeding ground for becoming a true data-driven business. And the second one is develop analytics translators quickly. All right? So, my name is Sjoerd van Heuvel, impossible to pronounce, I realize that. And I consider myself a little bit of a translator as well, right? I have my PhD, I know a little bit about research, but I'm not a hardcore data scientist. And I worked quite some years in practice, in the consultancy world, so I know practice, but am I a true manager or something? No, neither. But I understand, I think, both worlds enough to bridge the gap. And that is what I encourage all of you. Most of you are HR professionals, some managers, to become this translator, to become the bridge between the hardcore data science and the business. All right? So that's the aim of today. So some examples, and let's start with plain examples, right? You all may have questions like these, right? Typical questions about relationships. If we do this, then what happens with? What are the drivers of whatever, employee well-being we discussed, or turnover, or absenteeism, you know? And these are plain questions you can address with analytics, for sure. But I want to stretch the ideas now. I want to show you what is possible as well. And all the examples I showed to you, they are implemented in practice. Some are funny, but they are basically realistic. So look at these examples, listen to these examples with the idea, I can implement this today, okay? So translate it already to your banking, insurance, finance, or another context that you may have. First of all, this one, right? It actually works, right? I don't know if it happened like this in countries, but this is vaccination, right? It is possible, so amazing what a robot can do already, right? There are many more robot movies online, but this is actually working. And it's used already in hospitals, for example, right? Not for injecting people, but then this one, digital twins, second example. Yes, you can make a digital twin of patients, and it's done already. Digital twin basically means that the object you have, here a person, a patient, this patient is made digitally. So you can experiment in a safe environment with what a medicine can do, for example. So with all the data you have available about this patient, you can then feed in a certain a medicine, for example, and predict what will happen with the patient. And if that patient dies in the non-realistic situation, you probably won't give him or her that medicine, at least I hope. You can do that as well with machines, for example. Before you invest millions of dollars or pounds, whatever, in a machine, you first make a digital version of that machine to see if it actually works, what the performance will be. So already think about what you can do with digital twins for your organization. What would happen in terms of HR, in terms of maintenance, in terms of facility management, but also your client base as a whole. What would happen if we raise the pricing, if we raise the interest? I don't know what, okay? Digital twins. Then another one. Here we go. The generative AI. You have seen it, deep fakes, right? Deep fakes. Probably you know the movie, and otherwise look it up on YouTube. The movie where Donald Trump is imitated by Barack Obama. Well, the fake Barack Obama. Barack Obama says about Donald Trump, he is a total, sorry for my wording, dipshit. But that is not, of course, something that Barack Obama would say, okay? Not at all. It's a deep fake. And they are realistic, tremendously realistic. What you see here is the mayor of Berlin in Germany. She thought she was talking to the mayor of Kiev in the Ukraine. She wasn't. For more than a half an hour, she was talking to a digitally constructed human being without noticing that. So, of course, to become the mayor of Berlin, you're quite intelligent, okay? And she was tricked. So imagine what that can do to online job interviews, right? Is the candidate real or not? Does the candidate exist? So you can do a lot of fun things as well with generative AI. For example, making such pictures. These pictures are not real, so to say. These are fabricated by the algorithm. It's DALL-E. You can look it up, DALL-E. Technology also by OpenAI, by the way. And here it is simply said, okay, please produce a picture which having an astronaut sitting on a horse. And the second picture they added to it, and please show it in Andy Warhol style. And then this was fabricated. And last week I saw pictures on social media of ladies partying. It was so real, but it was just entered like, okay, ladies partying in a disco. Okay, so imagine what that can do in positive terms and in negative terms and risk for your organization. And this one, organizational network analysis. In this panel, we discussed basically, okay, you want to realize something, lower turnover, employee well-being, organizational performance, whatever, and there are a lot of factors influencing that. What we think is influencing an outcome may not be the case, and organizational network analysis can help you in that. This is the lady who wrote this book. I saw her at a conference, and she explored quite late that she has some sort of a malfunctioning of the brain, I could say, but that raises a lot of potential for her. She could do things that other people could not do. So what is the obvious thing that you see is not necessarily what is the case. And we see it over here. This is a hierarchy that we typically see, right? We write them, we graph them. But the real-life situation may look like this. Okay, so who is the most important person in this organization? And a better picture is even displayed here. You see here on the size of the nodes, these are individual people, where they are, how important they are relative to the colleagues. So, for example, if the people in the middle of these networks are leaving the organization, there's a good chance that they get some other people with them. They may not be on top of the hierarchy. And then another one, you see there the mediator in the middle. That is the linking pin between the green people and the dark blue people. That is an important person, right? Could you read it from the hierarchy, from the organogram? No. Organizational network analysis, for example, based on our interaction, and also simply based on which emails are sent to each other. You can make such a graph based on the email conversations you have in your organization. Okay, the buzzword, the metaverse. Who is gaming in his free time or her free time? Yeah, a few people. So that comes quite close to the metaverse, right? And every one of you is having MS Teams meetings, for sure. And then you're looking at a screen. And on the left side of the screen and the right side of the screen, you still see your room, right? And in a virtual environment, you don't see anything else. So the metaverse, you're in there, right? So you, for example, wear glasses and you're in there. And other people can be there as well. What you see here are basically avatars. But these avatars can also really look like you. So that you trick your brain, right? You think you're in this real-life situation, but actually you're wearing these glasses. The future? No. It's already functioning in practice. So it's up to you when you decide to move towards here. I work at a university. We are starting to experiment with this because we think this will be one of the elements of the future of learning. Okay. Recommender systems. Hi. Thanks. Recommender systems. recommend this. If you share an account in some way, or you didn't know you share it, I noticed that with my girlfriend, in some way we are linked, digitally. So when she's looking for shoes on the internet, I get advertisements about shoes, okay? So recommender systems recommend you what you should do. If I do my purchasing of groceries online, we do it online, then if I forget something or didn't order something that I bought last week, the system suggests to me, hey, Sjoerd, wouldn't you buy this bread that you bought last week? So imagine what this can do for you as an HR organization. Hey, isn't it wise for you to follow this program? Isn't it wise for you to attend this conference? Hey, based on the similar profiles, perhaps you should watch this video. People who watch this video improve their performance in that area so much percent. Okay, so this is the opportunity of recommender systems. If you can put on the next slide, please. I think they're working on... Yeah, excellent. So here are some examples. And Netflix, of course, is the most obvious example. If you have separate profiles on Netflix, like my girlfriend has and I have, you don't want to go there, right? In my case, there are all kind of thrillers and a little bit of sci-fi, and with her, there are romantic comedy and those kind of things. So, you know, recommender systems based on your profile. Then, yes, holographs, right? This movie has no sound, so don't worry. What you see here, you think the lady is in the box, but she isn't. That's a 3D display of a lady. And what you see in some seconds, she is videotaped right beside this box. There she is. Okay? So instead of watching a TV screen or something, people watch a 3D version of a person, in this case in a box. It's a HoloConnect, HoloBox. This doesn't cost millions to implement, right? Now, hardly any organization has it, but imagine what this can do, like you saw here at reception desks. There is one person who steps in every location where a person enters. You don't need 4 people, you only need 1 person, okay? It can save money, for example, and still you can be very hospitable, okay? So, see the opportunities, holographics. And there is the buzzword. We mentioned that in the panel discussion, right? GPT. GPT-3, GPT-4 is coming, and we discussed Chat GPT. That's basically the chat solution of this of the organization, OpenAI. But already they developed GPT technology and implemented it in organizations. You will see here a concrete example, and I helped an organization in the insurance industry to mature this, where they summarize text. So you see here, if there is sound, great, and otherwise no problem, but you see a lot of text. So imagine you have a conversation as an agent with your client, a lot of spoken text, and with speech-to-text technology, you can automatically transcribe that. And then here, it's simply given the assignment, write a summary of this conversation. And you can select here, for example, the maximum length and how precise it should be. You have several things to play with. And then here, the system automatically creates a summary. This insurance company used it to inform another agent. So you're calling, yesterday I called you, today I'm calling you, and you can then quickly read what did we discuss yesterday, okay? Without having to read through everything. So it may be useful for that. Think about what opportunities you see for using that. All right, we discussed employee engagement surveys. Well, in my humble view, they're not really exciting to fill out. And I think once every 2 years, once every 3 years, and so on. So, but does it reflect reality, the fast-changing world? No, probably not. So ideally, what you see here on the top, you want to have a real-time assessment of the engagement or satisfaction or commitment or life events of an individual person. The moments that matter, that is what is important. If, for example, I fill out a survey today and next week I'm getting a new boss, then my thoughts and ideas and opinions of today are pretty useless. You want to measure it next week. The question then is how to measure employee engagement. Yeah, well, the survey is one option, but there are many more options with sensors, for example. Sensoring, like in the airport. Why not place such a thing at the exit of your organization? How was your day? Pick. Green smiley. Good work, right? Or this one, this is really amazing. Imagine that this is you. We monitor the attention or the engagement, whatever you like to measure. And look, for example, at the gentleman here on the left bottom. Now he grabbed some food, and gone is his attention. Okay? So you could have a real-life monitoring of the attention of the audience, for example. Of, if you have a video conference with your client, of your client. Is that client, please, next slide. Yeah, thank you. Is that client anxious, for example, or like they did here in the Belgian parliament? By the way, skip the sound, it's okay, please be seated like this. In the Belgian parliament, they broadcast all the meetings they have. So what one wise guy did, he created an algorithm. And that algorithm monitored whether the person in the parliament was paying attention or not. So if you were looking at your phone, right? And what he did was amazing. He also then sent him a message by Twitter indicating, hey, pay attention. Okay, so censoring may have great potential. And it's even so sophisticated that we can analyze the mimics of people to identify whether they are anxious or excited or happy or whatever. Imagine what this can do with analyzing your client, regardless of the ethical concerns that may, of course, be there. And this is not really new. This is a picture of Tesco, oil organization of, I think it's 14 years ago, more or less. And what they did in their petrol stations, they scanned the face of the clients, identified what the age of the person was and whether it was a male or a female, and then they adjusted the particular advertisements. So how we talk about personalization of contact. This gives you the opportunity to make your contact, things you show to a client, much more personal. Okay? Of course, give thought to the ethical concerns, but still. Another option of censoring, the usage of offices. Okay? Like you see here, which areas are used, which are not used. If a room is not used, should you clean it? Well, perhaps once every week, but not every day, not 3 times a day. If a toilet has not been used that day, do you need to clean it? So this is a simple example of how you could save costs, operational costs in your organization, right? And also to make a better division of meeting rooms, small ones, big ones. This gives you the data, right? Based on the movements of people. You could also track GPS, for example. I need to think about a story where they tracked the GPS of cleaners in an office. And then they created such a heat map. And there was a big red spot around the coffee corner. You know, you could judge, okay, they were drinking coffee, or it was the dirtiest place in the office, okay? So don't automatically decide based on such visualizations, but it gives you additional insight. This one, you know it from Amazon, perhaps. The cashierless stores. No cashier. Not at all. You grab the stuff, you grab the stuff that you need, and then the sensors identify. Sometimes it's used in the basket that you take with you. Sometimes it's just by sometimes it's just by sensors in the ceiling, for example. And then you just walk out the store and you have paid. So imagine what this can do to your operational costs in terms of salaries. It's amazing. Another one, data entry. Imagine for yourself how much time a handwritten form. This is something called optical character recognition, and it's very often used in invoices, but it can as well be done on, for example, insurance forms when you have a damage with your car. You fill it out even with your handwritten, and then the system identifies what it is and places it at the right position in your system. No human activity needed. So those people who used to do that can do more value-adding things, or more fun things, or perhaps decrease the workload, right? Or the pressure they experience in the job. Optical character recognition. Augmented reality. Well, this is just for the sake of fun. However, perhaps in education this can be helpful. You see a T-shirt, but if you wear the glasses or have an app, for example, you see what is behind that. So you can imagine what this can do to medicine students or young people becoming a doctor. I don't know. So there is a lot of opportunity. And what I discussed in a panel, speech to text, is a core element of this, because a lot in the office is going through voice, right? Through conversations. And then to analyze it, it should be in zeros and ones, or different terms in text. Speech to text can do that, and this movie is fascinating. Look it up, or I will send it to you later. This is a movie which shows a new experiment by, I think it was by Google, and they developed glasses that do auto-translation. I think some people of you are wearing translation devices right now, earplugs, so that is a possibility, and I don't know, but I guess someone is sitting here listening to me and translated in a particular language that you're listening to. But why not like here? You don't hear the sound, but the other person is talking a different language, and this person in real time listens and can have a conversation with a person speaking a different language. So perhaps you have one person in your office, but you serve 20 other countries, but we don't speak the same language. That's why very many Western organizations, for example, have their help desks in India where they speak English, or in other countries. Not needed anymore, right? You can serve any customer with any language, ready to be implemented. By the way, in MS Teams there is also an option to automatically show the capture, how do you call it, captures? The subtitles, so to say. So it's there already. So I would say, let's do it. Or are there some problems? Well, I think I found 3 at least, but there may be many more. So first of all, I think there is a problem with the KSAs, and you as HR professionals know what KSA means. K stands for knowledge, S, skills, and A, abilities or attitudes. It differs a little bit in what we see in professional or academic literature. But indeed, KSAs in the area of analytics. To whom does this look familiar? Okay, who is willing to explain it? Okay, so who had this in university time? Yeah, so who calculated what it is, the statistical significance in the last 3 months? So we learned it in university time, but we hardly ever use it. Let me briefly tell you why it's so important. Because the statistical significance simply tells you whether what you see, a difference between groups or a relationship, is based on coincidence or not. Or at least that it's a very slight chance that it's based on coincidence. So you may think you have improved in 2022, but perhaps it's not at all statistically significant. So you did not improve in 2022. It's based on coincidence, based on the people you asked, for example, of the type of weather it was. Statistical significance. So as of tomorrow, start calculating that. Then another one. Anyone knows what this means? Proportion of the variance explained, R squared. What this simply means, I've written down one outcome, right? The effectiveness of a training. You're all trying to measure the effectiveness of training. And you may have come up with some elements, you may have included them in your data analysis, and one element could explain, for example, 11% of the effectiveness of the training. For example, the qualities of the trainer itself, or the location, or I don't know what. And we heard earlier another one, we come to that. The second one may explain something, 7% in total, but we're missing something, right? So what this tells you is basically that you can explain 18% of what you want to change. In this case, the training effectiveness. It could just as well be absenteeism or employee turnover. This is not rocket science. This is having one check in the box in your analysis. So if you have a data-savvy person in your office, ask him or her, he or she can tell you. So we see here that we only explain 18%, so we're missing something. Well, listening to the previous presentation, basically the willingness to learn something, for example, is the major predictor. So what do we, yeah, indeed, we see it in the analysis. 43% of the outcome is explained by this variable. If you don't know this, you perhaps invest in all three solutions. If you know this, you put all your money, all your time, all your scarce resources into this third variable. So, again, as of tomorrow, please calculate the R squared. You can do it, it's under your fingertips. And then the final one, concerning the KSAs. Anyone familiar with this one? Yeah, what is it? Sigma, indeed, the standard deviation. So the standard deviation. Who calculated the standard deviation in the last 3 months? Yes, there is one person. Great, great, great. Did you like it? Yeah, you liked it. Okay, excellent. Standard deviation, also something that we hardly ever calculate. We learn it in university, but we don't do it anymore. As of tomorrow, listen to this. As of tomorrow, whenever you are reported an average, a mean, send it back. Ask for the standard deviation. Okay? Let's agree that. And let me show you why. Imagine that this side of the room is team B. You, as individuals, manage 1,000 people each. And the average rating of your employees on satisfaction or well-being, let's take well-being, is 7. The average is 7. Standard deviation is 2. This side of the room also manages 1,000 people. Okay, again, an average score on well-being of 7, but here there is a very narrow standard deviation. When we visualized it, this is basically shown like this. So every single individual, more or less, is clustered around this mean of 7 in this group. But over here, the spread is much wider. So if I ask you, what team would you like to manage? Who would love to manage team A? See some hands. Who would love to manage team B?
And this makes perfect sense. We're not having a conversation about this. It depends. You know, such a question always need to be answered with it depends. I think if you have a very stable environment, for example, where hardly ever something happens and people just need to do that particular routinized task, this is perhaps an optimal situation. But if you're facing major changes, transformation, okay, you have some people that perhaps are not really motivated or their well-being is not good or not satisfied, but you have some people who are really engaged or whatever you're measuring. So you need those people perhaps drive your change. Doesn't matter what the explanation is, but bottom line, only seeing the B doesn't tell you anything. Okay? And to make it take it a step further, it could also be that this large standard deviation here is explained by a group of hundreds of employees who I fired last week. They are really disengaged or dissatisfied. So if they are gone next week, because they have a week's notice, I don't know, or I can, well, matter, then perhaps the average suddenly becomes 8.5, with again a very narrow standard deviation. The bottom line, look behind the obvious, look behind the averages, look behind what you initially see, and the raw the data, better. Second problem, I think is a major problem, that we, as an HR community, focus a lot on metrics. You know, we have raw data, and when we put it in, when we transform it into averages, ratios, counts, then they become metrics. every KPI that you have, all have KPIs, is a metric. So much percent off. The ratio should be this and that. I could say, I don't know, that's pretty worthless, perhaps. For example, you can celebrate a 30% employee turnover. Party time. When is it party time? If the poor performing people are leaving today. Right? That is not a problem. Or if you're changing strategy and you need a more innovative workforce and all the people who are not really innovative, they're leaving, for example. 50% absenteeism, this happened in real life, is not a problem if it is a team of 2 people. One person is ill. Well, it's a problem if they're both responsible, I don't know, something, but get the point. And the other one, employee satisfaction. We always say, yeah, it should be high. No, it doesn't matter if it's a 7 or an 8 or 9 or 9.5 or 9.9 or 10. The question is, what is the investment in increasing your satisfaction? Hello? Yeah. No. And what is the return on that investment? Okay? And if the investment, for example, is £3 million and the return is only £100,000, you may not want to decide to improve that engagement or that you're measuring. Okay? So relationships. These are important. And then we come to a very, you may know Professor John McGraw from University of Southern California. He came up with this graph. It's the false popular term, the wall. So on the left side of the wall, you see descriptive analytics, counts, ratios, metrics, KPIs, typical scorecards. Okay? Same with benchmark. They tell you something about what the competitors have in terms of amount of HR employees on every 1,000 employees, something like that. But it doesn't tell you anything about relationship. And we need to move to the right side of the wall. Now we're coming to correlations, causality. The name? No, it's not. A correlation is something like the more people go to the beach, the more the sun will shine. Causality is the other way around. More the sun will shine, more people go to the beach. So how do you know, and let's use a practical example from the HR practice. Imagine that you think the manager should pay more attention to his or her employees and reduce the absenteeism. It makes sense, right? Causality could be the other way around. Quite some people are absent, illness, because they broke their legs in the weekend, for example, while gardening. And now the manager needs to solve everything. Hire new people or manage staff from information. So because of that, he or she cannot pay attention to the employee. So what we assume to be related and be causally related may be completely different. So challenge is in practice to move beyond the wall. Because I think, like it anywhere in the world and any of state basically, majority of your time you spend on metrics. And I encourage you as an analytics translator to move to the right side of the wall. Focus on relationship, right? And that also applies to the systems you use. Do you recognize some of these? Probably you do, right? And these IT providers, are there IT providers for that I'll just say here? Okay, that's good. You know, they tell you they do analytics. Because they really don't. They can. What they do great, but they metrics. They show you the raw data in averages, the ratios, graphs, and they do that very nicely, very intuitively. Who loves SPSS? Who has a trauma of SPSS? Yeah. So these are typical systems that, for example, for RPI, do you need a program, so it's even more difficult. It's not intuitively, but these are the toolings, software, that can actually identify easily the statistical significance, the R-squareds, the standard deviation. By the way, Excel can do that as well, but there are some that they could do that. So this is integrating in grid, for sure. But you need to think, if you want to move towards a data-driven organization, and you want to move from the left side of the wall to the right side of the wall, what tooling is required then? And it's not over there. At the faces it is, there, because very often these are also a system where you store your core data. That's good. Actual analytics, you put the right side of the wall. All right. And then a third and final problem in becoming the data-driven organization. I'm also from the HR field, so I can say we work very often from the left to the right. Okay? So we think of something, a solution for employee turnover. So solution A, B, C, okay? And then we hardly ever take, okay, some of you do and sometimes I do as well, but we think, what is the consequence of that? Yeah, okay, we reduce the cost. Yeah, that's good, okay. And why should we reduce the cost? If we have a lot of money, no need to reduce the cost, right? So yeah, well, then we can realize business objectives better or whatever. This is a option. Stop doing it. As of today, I really advise and encourage you to always work from the right to the left. Always start with your key business problem. It can also be an opportunity, like Nokia. If you don't realize an opportunity, you have a problem, right? So it's always a problem. And then move your way to the left. So there may be three elements, for example, which three drivers of this whole business outcome. And if the solution is not in the HR domain, don't focus your analytics on HR solution. So, plain example, let's say that the solution to your key business problem is to change the color of your logo. Do that. Okay? But very often, and now it's an HR crowd here, it could just well be a finance crowd. We are very focused on our own discipline. And we come up with solutions that we know. So the multidisciplinarity of problems requires us to look beyond the borders of our own discipline. Okay? Please do that. Get in contact with your discipline. And if you, at some points, identified as wherever IT or marketing, or in this example, HR could provide the key solution, think about the 43% that I showed earlier, then indeed you need to find out how can we influence that. And what I'm doing here, I'm building a conceptual model, right? And I think the majority of my time with management teams, I let them talk and I visualize it. Okay? And here you build your reality. So, 3 problems discussed. And we could argue now, let's do it. Okay? But how? Here from the final part. Based on, I work a lot of banking, a lot of insurance. I think this is one perspective, my perspective on the approach to go. And I mentioned the word analytics translator. It's not invented by me. McKinsey in 2018 came with an article on the analytics translator. And they basically said, like, organizations wanting to make use of their data and they're getting insights and business value out of their data, they hired data scientists. I mean, ask me that question in the panel, right? So, will data scientists make different? Oh, are they smart people? Yes. Do they know business? Do they have good storytelling skills? No, typically. Don't think of any data scientist could know. And the other thing is also true, right? The true business managers or business professionals, they don't know too much about hardcore statistics. And that's fine, right? But we need some glue. We need something in between. That is the analytic translator. Okay, so we'll keep slide. Have a look at some articles that are written about that. Get an idea of what the true essence of the analytic translator is. I encourage you to become this translator, to develop your V-shaped profile, because that's what it is. You have your specialty in performance management, in coaching, in leadership development, whatever. But you need to develop, I would say, a broad base on top of it. Know something about ethics, the privacy regulator, technology, data quality, etc. Other disciplines, I don't forget. Then you can be the linking pin between the business and data science. So that's one of the solutions. Second solution is quite crucial because even if you are a linking fin, even if you can come up with great technological solutions, data solution, if you don't find yourself in a breeding grounds of analytical projects, if you're not supported by your leadership to explore new technology, whatever, you can think of many examples, and it won't work. And we've seen it fail over the last 10, 15 years in the world of HR analytics, people analytics, a lot. So we, and I especially looking at the senior managers here, we should create this breeding ground for the analytics translators to flourish. So, yes, you should develop use cases, basically concrete solutions, concrete examples for free problems. But the management should work on this environment. And very often that means you need to transform your business. So, this is the summary. Look at it in your slide back, and I will explain it in a little bit greater detail. For the managers in developing this concept, step one is identifying what your ambition is. Where did you want to be in 2030 in terms of analytics, in terms of algorithm, in terms of deep fakes, in terms of holograms? So develop this ambition, this concrete vision of where your organization is in terms of data-driven business. Second thing is to identify, then I also refer to the gentleman who asked questions about the culture, identify the critical success areas to get there. Well, if we're looking at popular and academic literature, basically there are 6 core categories. 1, the governance of your organization. 2, the competencies that are available in your organization, or you have access to. 3, leadership. 4, culture, good relative. 5, data. 6, technology. And it makes sense, right? You can hire a bunch of data scientists, don't have the data in place or technology in place, they cannot do the job. Or if you have the data in place, technology, and the right data scientist, if the leadership doesn't support it, doesn't work. So they all communicate with each other. At that point, in conversation with each other, you should determine the key milestone. What should be realized this year, next year, the year after, and in the end, 2029, to realize our ambition in 2030. And after the milestone, you can specify that you complete action, right? And then out of this process, you have your ready to implement plan available. Okay, so I encourage you in some way to explore this journey, basically driven by the man. Then, concerning the second layer here, that is focusing on developing concrete use cases done by the analytics translator. The working people, okay? People who actually do the work. And this is a suggestion of a program that I very often execute, but please take it your own, fitting your own soul to your own concept. But what it basically shown here is that the analytics translator combine developing a use case with building their own competency. So it be starting from understanding the organizational context, defining the business problem, and read right here. Identify the analytical goal that you have. Is it to explore something, test something, evaluate something, build something? Derive your analytical question for that, for the data scientist, the analytics team. Build your conceptual model that we saw. How are all the things related to each other, hypothetically? Finding the measures. What data optimally measure this variable? After that, trying to find your data. Is your system? I don't know. Could you start gathering it? Perhaps. Then, the analysis. Small part. Then, storytelling. You can come up with great insights. If you're not able to get the message across, you won't make an impact for your leadership. And then, action. Okay, the leadership should take action or decide deliberately not to do anything with it, but it should not end up in the drawer, let's say. So, and then when you have implemented something or changed something, then the impact man. That is basically the 30-step process that I encourage you to follow, which is displayed over here in greater detail. So, at final comments from my side, you heard a lot, and I hope you took out of it whatever you can need. Or of what I've said here develop the breeding ground for analytic translator and develop your analytic translator. But never forget ethics around it. And that is rapid. Anyone is familiar with this model? You don't bother with this. This is one of the core models underlying the field of HRM, the Harvard model of Professor Veer from Harvard University. And basically what he and his colleagues said, like everything we do within HR derives from situational factors, context factors, and stakeholders' interest. We make policy based on that, and that results in outcome in the context of your thing. But what is displayed here in blue, we tend to focus on the organizational effectiveness. So making money, serving shareholders perhaps. But if we forget about individual well-being of employees, of society, there it is, right? Societal well-being, then it won't have long-lasting effect, right? Then it will backfire. So, final comment here, front and wide, always take 3 elements into account. How can HR, how can analytics, algorithm, impact for business, for effectiveness, and how can it contribute to your individual well-being and organizational well-being?